Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Contact Lost. I'm Joker, and today we'll be talking about the recent GT we've had in Poland, in Toruń, and the name of said GT was Dice Crusher. And my guest today is the winner of said event, Vladdi. Hello.
Oh, hi.
So you haven't been on here for a while, and I feel like I'm saying this to everyone who I'm recently interviewing. Uh,
Too many topics, I guess. Too many things to cover.
yeah, could be. So Vladdy, you took a Craftworlds list to the event. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? What mm, made the cut into the list, and if you had any particular strategies behind it?
Uh, well, the list itself is available in the Keeper, and it's open and it's public, so anyone can see it. So if I forget something, anyone can just look at it. Uh, Basically, it was a pure craftable list with some standard things like to Farsis, Baharot, and there was also Karandras, uh, two World Spider units, one small unit of bikes, one big unit of bikes with shuriken cannons, two units of spears, two units of banshees, one unit of scorpions, and warlock. One warlock, one single warlock as a character, and one unit of warlocks, three warlocks on bikes. Everything, all of warlocks were on bikes, and I think that was it. The whole list. The list was based around Swift Strikes, army ability, and the knockover. Uh, I'm sorry, my cat is trying to disconnect my headphones again. uh, so the army was about mobility and being able to score secondaries every turn. It's actually a bit to talk about because well, the list sounds quite simple. It's an MSU with a lot of units, small units that you can buff enough to hit hard, and the but the idea behind the list was to be able to do secondaries and deny my opponent's primary, even with very limited resources. So basically, the army trades quite well and is able to sacrifice units in order to achieve goals on the table, and it's able to keep it up till the fifth turn, even if those losses, even if suffers have losses, I can keep this up till fifth turn. The army is based about around making obviously behind enemy lines for 15 every game, and I have access to a number of secondaries that I can take depending on the mission and depending on my opponent. And let's be honest, the whole idea was to be able to score to be able to outscore my opponent and win at least a small victory every game because the army was tailored and designed to play on the win draw lose system more than 20-0 system that we usually play in Poland. So I tailored the list in such a way that I can take primaries from my opponent and at the same time score a stable points secondaries in a bit non-interactive way. I mean, I could always fall back onto behind the enemy lines, scout the enemy or banners, and some kind of one of the psychic secondaries that I had for a warlock on bike with Sunstorm that could use to easily make those psychic secondaries every game. So I could, of course, I had access to other, for example, the killing ones, obviously, some the other one that gives you points for killing with aspect warriors. Though that last one I don't use too much, but I had an access to a number of secondaries that I can choose from that would always bring me around around 35 points at least, uh,
Hmm.
and and in a such way that it was not exactly involving my opponent in the process. Basically, the release was constructed to score steady for 14 or 13 to 76 points every game. So a win and win 5 games in the tournament and win the whole tournament, and that actually worked.
Okay, so you've kind of answered the question I was going to ask. So, what secondaries would the list excel in doing? But if you've got the almost the whole list potentially available, then that's a really well built list. I have to ask, however, about Karandras because I thought that you weren't really a big fan of that guy generally. So, has
I
anything
wasn't a fan.
changed?
I wasn't. I was never a fan of a second Phoenix Lord in general.
Hmm?
Barrot is obviously good because he has a lot of utility, and he's super fast in terms of
Yeah, he's an
moving around
amazing
aggressively.
toolbox.
But apart from that, none of the none of the Saints Lord stand out. But as I was preparing, because I have this cycle for preparations, I prepare an army for this given tournament. I'm trying to figure out the meta. I'm trying to figure out the best army to fit that specific tournament, and I prepare the army sometimes even from the scratch for this given tournament. And when I started after the last GT in Poland, I started preparing for this tournament. I started preparing with Baldur's, and the first test I played with Jane Sar, um, but I quickly want to put her into trash because she doesn't do anything. She can't kill two orcs in close combat. And Karandras has he's less mobile and he's obviously less of a toolkit than, for example, Jinsar. She has fast last, some banshees abilities, but basically she can do shit. And Karandras is one, uh, actually the only, even including Baharot, Phoenix Lords that actually can pack some serious punch, especially with his multiple attacks and ability to inflict mortal wounds. That is quite. It can be quite annoying to some armies. It doesn't work on vehicles, but it works on everything else. Every 6 to 1 to mortals, so he actually can do something on the table. If he's charged by 10 orcs, he has a chance of killing them all in one turn. So that's a bit different than Janssar that struggles to kill two. Uh, and when I was testing the army and figuring out the current meta, what armies are maybe facing, I figured out that I need second Phoenix Lord. I need second model to be able to stay behind the ruin, behind the obscure terrain, on the objective, and take in opponents' charging units and survive. And Phoenix Lords are obviously good at that because you can only inflict 3 wounds per turn per phase on them. So when he gets charged, he will not die. He has obsex, so he isn't that easy to give objective away, points from primary away. He will have to charge him with some other obsec unit, and even if you do, he has a decent close combat capability. And even if he doesn't kill you, I can charge with banshees, and he will strike again in my turn. So um, he is good blocking unit because you can't take those more than 3 wounds from him. He has as the only Phoenix Lord, he can kill some decent things. If you have a strong hand, for example, against Custodes on this very tournament, I rolled 3 5s from lucky dices, and when I charge one of the warden units, changed 3 results to 6s, and I was able to roll like 2 more 6s from from the roll itself, 2 or 3, and I think like 10 on or 12 mortal wounds on the warden unit. So, so he can do, he has some punch, unlike other Phoenix Lords. And as I said, he has this Phoenix Lord ability to that he can survive a single round in close combat against obviously anything, maybe not anything, anything that doesn't ignore wells, because there are some models,
Yeah,
some
won't count.
relics
Hmm.
that overrule that. But apart from that, it's the only unit in the Eldar army that can actually and safely survive on the objective if your opponent cannot combine damage over the phases, obviously. But if the opponent can only damage him in the fight phase, that he is one of the few, if not only unit, maybe for the Bright Guard in the other army that can survive that. Can survive that, stay in an object unit on the objective, so your opponent has to figure out the way to not only charge him, but also charge him with something that can take away objective away from him. And I actually, throughout the tournament, throughout all the games, used all this second Phoenix Lord as in that manner as a model to stay on the one objective in No Man's Land that I needed to keep to score 8 points per game per phase per turn. Sorry, per turn.
Hmm.
So Karandras is on the objective in the no man's land. I keep my objective in my deployment zone usually, depending on the mission, obviously, and because of that, I can score 8 points steadily every turn. And then at the same time, because of the most important power in the whole army, that's Will of Asuryani, which gives me obsec and immunity to morale, which is both important. Uh, and I can move the units forward, sometimes by charging, sometimes by quicken, and take objectives away from the primary objectives away from opponent with any unit in my army, except for up to one unit of warlocks. Everything else can be given OPSEC, and so I can make plans and use any unit to take enemy objectives with that OPSEC. So it's the most important power in the list, and it's the power why this list actually works.
Hmm. Yeah, and you can get it off reliably with the Strands of Fate.
Yeah. I need only one free. Actually, it's also a low casting value, and I have +1 cast from Sea Council. So I rarely use dices on that power because it's easy to go off without it. But it's very much easier to play this army if we have at least one free to use on the specific spell that you need to go off. Um, and it is usually a warlock spell because most of those spells are on 7. So 1/6 it means that they work out automatically, and I usually keep that free. Free. I mean, the result of free gives me automatic 6 on powers. So I keep that dice for the quicken usually
Hmm.
because quicken is the most important power to take enemy objectives or score behind. So evolve.
Right. And so regarding Karandra still, I guess there was more to it than just a unit for killing 10 orcs, which you've used as an example. But now, like you said, if you play that guy defensively, like you've mentioned, then yeah, he's almost impossible to take down in a turn, and he's just very reliable in that regard.
It also blocks enemy plans because enemy knows he's there. So enemy knows committing forces on that objective is pointless because I will still keep it with my obsec, and he
Mm,
cannot take it away from me. Uh, and most opponents figure out that it's pointless to throw waves at Karandras. So one wave doing nothing just keeping him down on ruins, and only a second wave to kill him. And most opponents do not make that decision and try to focus their resources somewhere else. And that again allows me to score steadily my primaries every turn. So in general, that worked perfectly. Even if he didn't kill anything or kill very little during the games, he still brought his points back, and keeps keeping the objectives.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And you've mentioned that whilst preparing for a tournament, you try to analyze the meta. So when the lists became unhidden, what did you think? Did you predict the meta correctly? Did you feel comfortable going into the event with set Craftworlds list?
Yes, and the only goal for an half tournament is to avoid the Employer Guard, Asuryani turn. I mean, I will be perfectly honest. Playing win draw lose system, I was trying not to win too big, and like three first rounds, I had to face the guard in the fourth round. There's no way around it, but I tried to keep that as long keep that away for as long as I could, and that actually proved to be a very good decision if I wanted to win the tournament, because I finally faced guard on the fourth mission. That was luckily for me the best possible mission, the best possible table that I could have got, and in the end it proved to be a way to victory against that guard. I won that game. So basically, I was trying to avoid guard. Everything else was okay. I know I'm winning against demons that I expected. I win against demons around 12 to 8, 40, 30 to something like that. Usually, I played a number of tests, even like 2 days ago against Crazy again, and it was a small victory to Elders again. Our game was very similar to what I expected of that pairing, even though it was very close. Uh, so Demos I got covered. I played tests against Dark Angel Terminator spam, and they were very in favor of Elders. Don't get me wrong. When I say in favor of Elders, I don't mean that I'm crashing those armies. No, by no
Hmm.
means. I only mean that I have tools to control the game. With it's very difficult for opponents to win that games, but it doesn't mean I will slaughter them. I will just win 30 to 7, 13 to 7, and that's gonna be perfect for me. And I can steadily win by that margin without um, needing everything to go off. That not everything have to work out for me to score that result, and I was quite confident that I can score that quite easily against any opponent. So I had the same went for Custodes with spam of wardens. So I got demons, Custodes, and Dark Angels covered. Uh, I also played some test into guidelines that does not have indirect fire like Votam, and the Miami controls the games pretty easily against those two. So that was what I was expecting. Let's be honest, also some of our best players in Poland went that week for the Nottingham. No, some team.
Northampton.
Yeah,
But
Northampton.
yeah.
Yeah, some team tournament in England. So it was a bit easier. It's not like a lot of them went. It was like six guys, something like that. But it was still a bit easier. Uh, but in the end, I think I predicted the meta. I also thought that it's not gonna be a guard spam all over, and I was right about that. In the end, I'm expecting a guard spam for the next tournament, so I will not be taking elders. So it worked out in the end. I faced mostly armies that I expected, and got the results that I expected.
Okay. Well, having said that, let's go into your games. I mean, you've touched upon a few of them already in more or less detail, but maybe you can talk a little bit about them. So, in first round, I think you played Cebul and his Zinch Demons.
Yeah, yeah. He made a mistake. Actually, during the tournament, I even talked to do that. This is a psychological warfare that is used by every elder player. You put your six scorpions or five scorpions and put them in front of the enemy army, just telling your opponent that they're not deployed yet. They're only there for you not to forget about them. And your opponent deploys his army looking at those five or six scorpions in front of his lines. And well, most some of the opponents, not all of them, but some of the opponents take it hard and deploy their armies very deep in their deployment zones, and that what happens with Sabo. He deployed most of his hard hitters deep in his deployment zone, and when I scored, I don't know, 12 twice, while keeping him on 4 or 0 points for 2 turns, I knew I'm not gonna lose this game. So I had this game won after two, maybe 3 turns, when I knew that I scored high points from primary twice and he scored low on primary twice, because he couldn't react quickly enough, or retake. He couldn't retake the field from how deep he deployed. So that was it. When I knew I'm gonna win, somewhere around the end of turn three, I started making mistakes. I was not careful enough with positioning my units, forgot to cast Warp Ritual twice, and he got some angles to my models, and when demons start shooting at elders, they just die. So the win in the end wasn't too high. It was like 14 to 6 or 15 to 5, I can remember. Uh, but honestly, I didn't feel bad about it because I, I I won't be lying. It wasn't the goal from the start not to score too high, to just score like 14 to 5, 15 to 5, 14 to 6, or 15 to 5, to just get a win and do not get that card too soon. So that happened, and I was able to, even though I suffered some losses in the third, fourth, and fifth turn, I still was able to control the game and win it quite easily.
So, if you'd be playing 20-0, the differential system, I guess you wouldn't be getting so careless in such a game.
Yeah, I do think I have some. If I don't know if you want me to talk about the differences about this both systems.
I
I
think
was
I
I
was
was
going to get that after the
Yeah,
games.
so
So,
at this point, I'm gonna just say, yeah, obviously, playing 20 to 0 system keeps you on the edge throughout the game, and playing win draw lose, especially with 5 rounds, allows you to get comfortable and relax after third turn if you know you're gonna win. That's a huge difference. When you play 20-0, you keep, you're at the top of your game throughout the whole game. You can't drop because you need every point. And when you play win draw lose, you don't have to do that. Actually, the game is the way the paints were done at Dice Crusher. The tournament penalized you if you do that. If you maxed out your points because you had to play the the strongest opponents. Uh, it may sound a bit cynical, but uh, what's the point of scoring 20-0 if that will make it more difficult to win the tournament than easier? So yeah. If you play 20-0, you keep the top of your game till the very end, and in that system that you played on Death Crusher, when you'll see that you're winning. Uh, it didn't actually give you any incentives
mhm.
to score big, to keep your concentration. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, totally does. And do you think that? I mean, I think you've already said that, but Zinj Demons for Elda is a relatively good pairing, or is it
No,
like
yes,
okay?
it depends. It's a very difficult question.
Hmm.
Seriously, it's a hugely difficult question. For example, I'm never lost against demons in general, and I never lost it with this outdoors against never. Never is a huge word. I played a number of games. It's not like about 100 because well, I prepared for this tournament like for 2 months, but I played a number of games and I won them all. But I won them by small margin. All the so I feel comfortable playing. I even told you when before we played our game that I think I have the edge
Mm-hmm.
because this is what I think when I'm playing when considering this pairing. I have the edge because I know I can control the game. I have double movement. I am much faster. I have OPSEC. I have non-interactive secondaries, so I can control the game to score a win. But my Wolf Spider costs 21 points. 21 or 22? 22, I think now, Jesus. And he has one wound and toughness free. Demons, Flamers have three wounds, 3 plus demon save, 6 plus demon save, toughness 4. So the difference is huge in armies' capability. The strength of the army on itself is it's totally in favor of demons. Demons are
Mm-hmm.
just better. They are better priced. They are less expensive. They pack far more punch. Uh, at every aspect, the demons are better, except for two, as objective secure ability and the mobility. I
Mm-hmm.
have I have huge advantage of those two, and the whole game comes to using this advantage. If you can use this advantage to your advantage, then you will win the game. If you but playing this game with elders, playing this list, it's all about not overcommitting. You have to put a huge restraint to yourself. A huge. I had to keep myself in shackles all the time, not to move too many units forward, not to kill too much. I don't have to kill anything. I only have to put objective secure units on your objectives and score my non-directive secondaries. I don't have to kill anything in your army. And if I do want to kill too much, then my list is melting very quickly against demons. So it's very easy to lose this game. But if you know what you're doing and do not overcommit, you should steadily win by small margin every time.
Okay. And when you were playing the test games, did you like play them out to the end?
Yeah,
And okay, so in a way, having that experience, you also knew at
there
what
are.
point you
uh,
kind of
your
can
question is
relax.
tricky because whenever I prepare for the tournament, I do two things. It's it's same for every sport, which people usually forget about for the game. There are two types of things you do as training. You play games and you train. And when I'm preparing for the tournament, I do both of those things. I play games. If I play games, I play them to the end. But I do training as well. I don't need opponent to do training. I set up an army against a given army. For example, I decide in my head that I'm playing, I don't know, against knights, and I play a single turn, sometimes two turns, without my opponent.
Hmm.
It's without my opponent on the TTS. Applying one turn to see how can I deploy, when I need to deploy, how far is my movement of my models, when I can, when can I get within one turn, how when can I hide, and things like that. And sometimes when you have an idea of a list and all, all you need to do is put it on the battlefield to see what's wrong with it or at least play a single turn. And you quickly realize that guy with his aura ability will never keep up with the unit that he wants to give that aura ability to.
Hmm.
And sometimes you only have to play one turn to see that. And I do that maybe not a lot because uh, I work a lot. Uh, I'm a grown man, but I try to do that at least as much as normal games because I think it's as important. It's exactly the same in every other sport. When you train, I'll train squash. So you play like 2 hours, sorry, 2 times a week or 3 times a week,
Mhm.
but you also train. You go to gym, you make some CrossFit training, things like that. Not exactly playing the game, but doing things to keep in shape in general. And the same goes for TK. You can't only play games to get better. You need to train. You have to do the boring part as well. And I think very few people understand that in general. But I digress. So,
No, but that's very interesting. I think that's a gold insight. But yeah, time is something we need to keep an eye out for. So, game number two. Who did you play against?
I played against Terminator Spawn with some characters in 2000 Masters. Behemoth was playing it. It was an easy game. He lacks the mobility. I have a lot of mobility. I In this part I also have a lot of punch, and I was able to control the game very easily. Did the same thing that I told you about earlier. I put Ground as one objective. We played
Hmm.
actually 60 objective in domination, so I put my units on three objectives, current just in front, and was able to keep those three objectives throughout all the game and take objectives away from opponent while scoring those secondaries that didn't actually involve my opponent, and uh, and that's it. And the game was totally same as those previous one against demons. I by the turn by the end of turn three, I was sure I was gonna win. uh, I didn't make any mistakes. Just Behemoth started rolling better, but I didn't feel the rush to score some points. I was able to relax and just move models a bit, and that's when so I was sure I was gonna win it. So I even scored a bit better, I think, against Demon than against Demons. It was like a point more, 1 point more. Anyway, I, it was there was basically no history to the game because I controlled which objectives that Behemoth can have, which he cannot have. I also able to block his deep strikes on more than half the table, so he couldn't deep strike and charge any of my objectives. Um, why? Because of my ability. While because of my mobility, I was taking his objectives from him every time. And when I scored 8 twice and he scored 0 twice, it was kind of obvious that, and I was steadily scoring my secondaries as well. It very quickly became obvious that he can't get a win from that. So we played a very nice game till the fifth turn. But as I said, it was very similar. I wasn't that much concentrated from the top of turn three, but in this case I can't remember making any mistakes. This
Hmm.
you don't stop overthinking things. Just move models.
And rolling dice.
Yeah.
But I would think that Dark Angels are a bit difficult. I mean, obviously the
Jesus.
mobility is always on your side, but
Applied.
OPSEC on everything and without
It
getting
doesn't
into
matter.
the
I
ridiculousness
I
of.
have a lot of OPSEC actually. If I want to, all I'm
Mm,
army
mm,
can have OPSEC because you actually need only one model on the objective for all models on the objective to have OPSEC. If you think about it, it
mhm.
works like that. If you have one
Well,
model on
yeah.
the objective with OPSEC, all models on the OPSEC have that rule, right?
Mm, mhm.
So it's very difficult for Terminators if they cannot get close to me. It's very difficult for them to take that objective from me. One Terminator on the objective is not enough. Two, three, five is not enough usually, and because of lack of his mobility, he cannot actually get on the other side of the table if I block the deep strikes. So and let's and one more thing, I kill those terminals quite well as well because I have a combination of Jinx, Doom, and bikes, and
Mm.
actually all of my army.
Okay. Yeah. Fair
But
enough.
when the Terminators and I have no cover, which is extremely important, and I included that no cover with Custodes and Dark Angels in mind.
Hmm.
Because when I jinx a unit of Terminators, they suddenly uh, from AP1 they have 3+ save. From AP2, from those spiders, they only save on 4+. Uh, and it's hugely important. I'll give you an example. On the first turn, I moved my Scorpions in the charge range of his 5 Terminators to score behind enemy lines. But obviously, 5 Scorpions is not enough to kill 5 Terminators, so I moved my bikes and shoot that unit with single salvo, with rerolls and Jinx, but without Doom and without Bladestorm. Just to kill 3. And those bikes kill all of them in one salvo. And I didn't have a target to charge with my Scorpions. So uh, it shows that it's not exactly difficult for my army to kill those Terminators and large in numbers. Uh, from that point, Behemoth played a bit more cagey game, so that success from first turn was not, and he had -1 damage on one unit all the time from there on. So I wasn't able to copy that success in next turns, but
Hmm.
it shows that if he lowers his guard down, and those bikes can eliminate a number of Terminators in one turn. So it's I can control the game. I have a decent punch. I have mobility. I feel this pairing is quite in favor of Eldars. In fact, I was far more worried again about the other Dark Angel army that played well in this tournament, Xelix Ravenwing.
Hmm.
That army would be far more difficult for me to kill, far more difficult to play against, because of high mobility, high rate of fire, huge DPS, and the trading abilities that it has against my army. That would be a far more difficult pairing. Unfortunately, I didn't have to play my Terminators. So I controlled the game against Behemoth, and I was able to score a solid win. Not too big, but solid win.
Okay. And game three. 20 wardens.
Yeah, yeah. I told you that this army packs a bit of punch, and I was tailored, played tests against those wardens against the different Terminators,
Hmm.
and and it showed up very well in this game. I killed 17 wardens in one turn,
Wow.
and 17 wardens in one turn. The second turn, I I think I just played it well because uh, I forced my opponent to get back with his Alarus, with those, let's say, MSU units of Custodes, because I used the Web of Deceit on Spiders to move behind his lines,
Hmm.
and he had to. Uh, there were two choices for him, or either move back with his small units and take those spiders as well, or sacrifice one unit of Custodes guards to wardens to take them away. Uh, he chose the first one, and but if he did that, he didn't have any small units to put on the objective instead of wardens. So he moved both of warden units on the objectives, and that was a mistake because his defensive capabilities are based on stratagems. And if you put two units with custodes of those wardens in front, I can choose. I can split fire, and I can choose split fire. Let's say in split fire in shooting phase, and I can split fire. It's not an exact, exact thing, but I can split fire in fight phase. I mean, I can charge one unit with banshees, and then or even two units with banshees, and you can do shit before I attack with everything.
Hmm.
And you have to split those stratagems between those two units. So I basically split fire, and yeah, you have no reels here, but I shoot with full reels there. And the same went in the fight phase when again you have to use the same stratagems and for 2 CPs no less to give yourself the reels or end transhuman. And he quickly ran all those in a single turn. Actually, in the second turn, because he used some, yeah, started the game, he used some, spent some CPs to against my bikes in the first turn. So he simply ran out of CPs in the second turn, and I was able to pick up a number of those wardens from shooting by split fire, avoiding this unit with no reloads and shooting some bikes in the unit with reload that I could reload hits against. And then Karandras made this thing that I told you about, like inflicting 10 or 12 mortal wounds on the one unit of
Hmm.
wardens. So which and generally after my fight phase, my opponent was left with those units. He moved back to take care of my spiders and Brian on the in the middle of the table, and that was it. So the rest of the game was quite easy. I actually wasn't able to max out the points because, but I got a steady 19 to 1, I think, win from that.
Hmm. And then the next day, round four, you finally ran into guard.
And the worst kind. And the worst kind, I mean, 9 mortars. This is a pain for my army. This is anathema because uh, my army relies on my units to fulfill a given role. I have to actually be able to throw damage from anything, every single unit, because I have expensive allied units that have only one wound. But so I have to be able to use them in a proper way to take enemy objectives, to kill something uh, in order to win. But those mortals take that ability away from me because if he can kill those 5 or 7 wound model units with toughness 3 without before they actually fulfill a role, then I will quickly run off the models to do things on the battlefield.
Mm.
And fortunately for me, I got the best possible table on the best possible mission. I got hammer, which eliminated the risk of guarding flanking me and seeing my units with those advancing tanks and shooting. Jesus, whoever thought that it's a good idea to go for Imperial Guard, especially Eman Rass's ability to advance and shoot, and it doesn't even give them that ability. It also gives them plus 2 to move. So whoever thought it's a fine idea is an idiot and should be fired. Anyway, this is so stupid,
Yes.
and
Classic Vladdi
it,
rant.
it's not even stupid, it's moronic because you can also redeploy 3 tanks. Up to 3 tanks, I can't remember. You can deploy a number of tanks to whenever you want and then advance them and shoot. It's so stupid, it's completely breaks the game. And if I would to play that army against any table with deployments and quarters, for example, he would flank me in the first turn and destroy enough with mortars and those shooting in the first turn that I wouldn't, I would not have any chance of winning that, I think.
Hmm.
But fortunately, we played Hammer, so he couldn't see a shit. Don't get me wrong. He put his tanks for on the deployment zone line, straight up in my face. He moved them as far as he could, all 7 lemon russes, as far as he could. Just his plan. I talked him about it with him with Marcin at the end of the game. He told me he wanted to make critical mass, something like that. It's a critical mass tactic. I mean, he moved 7 tanks, and uh, he moved all 7 tanks, hoping that I will be not able to kill enough of them, and his counter punch will just cripple me. And well, it was a decent idea, but uh, but as those wardens before him underestimated how strong this Elder's army is if allowed to use all these all its rules in a single turn. And so basically, he couldn't flank me. He was able to, in the first turn, he moved all the tanks, uh, just like 7 or 6 inches from my deployment zone, depending on how much he rolled on for advances. And from mortars, he was able during first turn to kill only one scorpion, a single one, a single scorpion from 9 mortars. Yes, yes, that's not a mistake. Let's just make one thing clear. I had a 2+ cover save because all of my army started in cover because this was that kind of a table. So I was able to roll enough saves to have only one scorpion die from mortars. And then it was my turn, and it quickly appeared that I can destroy 4 lemon and 2 sentinels in a single turn. So after my first turn, my opponent was left with 3 tanks, and quickly chose to back to his starting positions, uh, except maybe for a single tank. He used one tank to kill most of my bikes, the big unit of bikes, which only showed how stupid this army is. A single tank destroyed most of the my damage dealer unit, uh, having only one survived in the end. So, so it's crazy stupid. This guard in general is crazy stupid, and I was lucky because, as I said, I would put hammer. Not only he cannot shoot me in the first turn, but because of the number of those blocking terrain, obscuring terrain, and I was able to block his deep strike. I actually left him a space to use Barbican's key in the range of my bikes, but he didn't take the bait because I was had 2 CPs for warning and just shoot those cars king of the table. So
Mhm.
he didn't take the bait. Smart of him. But generally, apart from that, he had no place to deep strike them. So till the end of the game, he didn't use any of the uh, casking combo on me, fortunately. And moreover, he didn't actually have CCPs very quickly for that because he used all of them on the defensive abilities. And in that turn, that I was killing his tanks because well, he used means one damage on something twice. He shot after death, and suddenly he didn't have any CPs left.
Mhm.
So I was able to strike very hard on him, and then we just exchange pleasantries for the next 2 turns. Why? But fortunately for me, I was able to keep my objective safe, while I was still, as I said, with limited resources, quickly dwindling resources because of
Mhm.
mortars. I was still able to take objectives from him because of OPSEC, because of Quicken, because of my mobility. Uh, because, for example, I don't even need Quicken because if I roll a 6 on advance, I don't have to roll. I have a dice that changes,
Mhm.
that gives me 6 on advance. Then my wolf spiders can move 18 and then move 2d6 because of battle focus. And I use that one turn to move 18, destroy one unit of Karaskin, and then battle focus with obstacle on his objective. So, uh, and the top of turn 3, he had like 6 mortars and one tank, and one unit of Karskin that actually already used the key. And all of those were in his deployment zone. I had some parts of my units in my most of my standard units were dead. But I have some two bunches here, two warlocks there, things like that. But I had both Phoenix Lord on my objectives, mostly untouched. Uh, so and we ran out of time. We both ran out of time at this moment, but we most or less agreed that the result would probably not change till the end of the game. I won 12 to 8, and probably that would be our final score as well, because at that point he didn't have any means to take my objectives away from me till the end of the game, and he didn't actually have any ability to kill Phoenix Lords in cover, even though his mortars reduce overrule my wound limitation,
Hmm.
then killing a 2+ save guy, and it's difficult one for more difficult thing for more with mortars. So basically, in the end, I won 12 to 8. Was very happy, um, but also very lucky because, as I said, I think that was the only table in the only mission that I could make it work.
And did you take behind enemy lines in that game as well?
Yep, yeah, I took enemy behind the last in every single game.
Cool, because I would have thought that guard has such a footprint that especially on that deployment it might be difficult to squeeze in a unit. But
Well, what kind of footprint? He had 7 tanks, 2 car skin, 9 mortars hiding behind obscuring ruins, and that's all.
oh, okay.
There
Oh,
were
then
no infantry squads, nothing like that. Only
oh,
seven
so you,
tanks, only the most brutal things in total.
okay. So that's just the wrong impression I had from my
And
game with guard that had
and
four
and
infantry
he
squads.
and he lost 4 of those tanks and 2 sentinels in the first turn.
Hmm. Hmm.
So no, I had a lot of but I knew that he had this order. Um, I think it's an order that disallows deep striking, something like that. So I didn't actually put anything in deep strike. I played everything from the table, but I was still able to score behind because of
Yeah,
Quicken.
you've got Quicken, you've got
Quicken, I have
fast units.
those spiders that moved 18 and then battle focused things like that. I had
Hmm.
mm, enough tools to score those behind anyway.
Okay, sure. And then the final game.
Well, I faced that guy. I can't remember his name. So we played against each other in the last game. Oh Jesus, that game! Oh, I am. I'm. I thought I will become bald after that game. All I thought that all my hair will fall off. It was. I think your list was the most difficult in all demons list against my army because I struggled to kill 3 big demons steadily. But at the same time, I still have those advantages that I stated before. I'm much more mobile and I have obstacle. You didn't have any of in your list as far as I remember.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so these are huge advantages for me. Uh, but the game was very close. Came to some came to some rolls to decide the game. Some single rolls. You had one very bad shooting at spiders, and then you were unable to get any of them in close combat, which gave me 12 in one round. But at the same time, you were able to dispel my power that I casted on 11 and rolled 12. That's
Nice.
disgusting, man. That is just disgusting. And it was important. It wasn't some random power that was completely unimportant for the game. No, it was very important to be able to kill that plot twister in one turn, which I would have done if you didn't roll that 12, probably.
Yes, exactly.
So it was so crazy stupid.
Because it was a
But
big smite, and regardless, you only needed one mortal wound. So
yeah, yes, I needed one mortal wound, and it was a big smite. So that was fun. But also, I had some luck. My one biker from that was giving me behind in one turn
oh
survived till the
fuck
end of
that
the game.
biker.
Yeah, so there were some swings in the game. In the end, I was able to outscore you by 6 points. It gave me the victory in the tournament. It was a very difficult game. I think it was played well by both of us. I think in the end, my mobility and your lack of OPSEC prevailed in the end to
Definitely.
this sheer power of brutality that you have. Um, and in the end, it was a small win, but it was very close. I could have gone a different way, especially if you were to choose different secondaries, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we've talked about, and I
But
think.
it was but as we talked about after the game, uh, it was difficult to make the choice actually at the moment at the start of the game because, for example, you chosen no prisoners, and
Mm-hmm.
that would be a wise choice. For example, if I started the game, but if you started the game, a more aggressive approach, was better because green, for example, because when you put three big guys in front of me, I have to concentrate on one. I cannot concentrate on the rest of your army. So green would be, I think, a good thing to do. And in this particular situation that he had on the table, obviously assassinate would be a better thing to do as well.
Yeah, but that's we can only say that in hindsight, right?
Yeah, yeah,
When your Phoenix Lords didn't get back up, etc., etc. So,
yeah. Yep. That's all true. So very nice game, and in the end, I was able to pick a fifth win and have 5-0 and win the tournament. Well, I have to be honest. I was very happy with that because all my predictions towards how this enemy play and what I want to do with it played out. It happened exactly as it's supposed to, um, and basically, I had fun games and some very spiky rolls. So basically, the essence of 40k. So I was very happy with the tournament in general. I was both lucky and played well. So when you both lucky and play well and you win, it's the best feeling.
hmm oh, congrats on your win yet again. And would you change anything in that list if it was played in the differential point scoring?
I wouldn't play a loss.
Okay, okay, that sounds like a big change
Uh,
to the list.
it's because it's extremely difficult to score a high wins with this list at the current state of points that I have to pay for units and others. It's very difficult to score high wins with it. It's possible, and but it's easy to make a mistake that costs you a lot of points. And this army is not designed to kill. If I were, but answering the question, if I were to change things, I would think about Hail of Doom.
hmm
I actually, I actually saw a list that won a too big tournament in Germany the very same weekend, or close by at least, on Gunhammer. And saw a list that is identical to mine, but built in Hail of Doom. It drops spiders. It drops one unit of Shining Spirit and something else, I think, and takes in 3 units of the Avengers.
hmm
And the general hitting period, everything else was identical. I mean, there was Karandras, there was same powers on Farseers, there were two Farseers, there was Karandras, there were three bike warlocks with the same powers. There was a single bike warlock, 2 units of banshees, 1 unit of scorpions, the identical unit of shining spears, identical unit for bikes. I mean, one big unit bikes with shrinking cannons, 1 unit, small unit for behind. It was except for those changed three units for digers for one spears and two spiders. The list was identical, and it won the big tournament in Germany. So I must have done something right.
Clearly.
But clearly, yeah. So if I were to maybe think about changing this list into 20-0 format, I probably would give Hell of Doom a chance. and try to uh, give it a test, because it sounds like a general improvement in general army strength. For example, uh, if I have hail, I can quite maybe not steadily, but I have a reasonable chance to put a dent in chicken. And the what's that thing?
Lord of Change,
Yeah,
psychic
in load of
vigilance.
change. Because if I have sixes auto wounding, I have and reels to hit. There's
Hmm.
enough shots to make him sweat. Uh, and in this list, uh, it more bases around playing around those big guys, not killing them.
Hmm.
And the Hail of Doom list can actually kill them. That's the difference. That's the difference. So if I were to change, I would probably go Hail and try to go for more damage.
Okay. And although I guess you've pretty much answered that already, do craft worlds have a place in the current meta? And in a Teams environment, are they now the better option of the Eldari Codex compared to Harlequins, in your opinion?
I don't know, because I didn't actually watch a lot enough Harlequin games to make up a mind about it.
Hmm.
I do think there are definitely the winners after the changes from Acts of Omen and Balancing Slate and the point changes, because nothing changed. There are some changes, not some cost of characters got up, uh, but that didn't actually change that much when considering how many things change for Harlequins. Yeah,
Hmm.
their defensive capabilities got hugely reduced. We, so I would have to make up my mind and about it. I don't have made up mind about it to think about it. But I do think that elders have a strong place in the current meta. I do think that you can win tournaments with it. I do think I uh, personally think there are better choice for team tournament than Harkins right now. Though not sure if compared to each other, if one is better than the other.
Hmm.
Big, but and I think that the results in every system in every meta shows support that statement, because, well, as I said, big one big tournament in Germany, where GT kind tournament in Germany was won by Hail of the Meldors. There were other elders in high places in that tournament. I know that Inari is doing well over the pond. So I do think that elders are very much in the meta. Maybe you, you have to maybe make some tweaks in considering considering Astronomical, because you ask me what would I change. Uh, no matter if we play win rollers or 20 to 0, I would think about putting a single night spinner into the list just for this
For the
Imperial Guard,
Mordors.
because he strikes on average 7 shots, ignores all modifiers, so he hits on 3 plus.
Hmm.
Oh no, on 4 plus, 3 plus because he can't see. So on 4 plus and one's on 2 plus, and that should be enough to kill around 1 unit of mortars per turn, and it is huge if you can do that with that model. So, uh, and he can be quite useful against other armies as well. So. Uh, I would probably think about squeezing one into the list, maybe taking one spiders on one Sign Spears unit away to squeeze one into the list to make it
Hmm.
more able to counter guard in general.
Okay. And last but not least, the scoring system, because we were meant to talk about that. You've played two GTs now. The only two we've had this year in
Yeah.
Poland. They both had this weird hybrid of win, draw, lose and 20-0, to be honest. What do you make of that system?
Well, I was quite optimistic after the Warsaw tournament,
Hmm.
The last Warsaw GT about it. Um, but Dice Crusher revealed all the downsides of the system. I am now pessimistic. The fact that at least the system that we played, because if you have random pairings, it changes a bit. But if you have
Hmm.
total Swiss, so basically the best winner play plays against best winner, this system sucks a bit because uh, it makes you play worse that you could if you know you're gonna win. It doesn't incentivize you to score another big points. It's actually against your best interest to score big in free and the first games because you don't want to meet your opponents, the most strongest opponents um, at the start. You can keep your score low enough and still win to avoid some armies that you want to avoid. And I'm not sure if that's the best, how it's supposed to be. I prefer when you have to keep your focus throughout the whole game and deny points from opponent, and that should be worth something. And moreover, this tournament showed me that uh, for example, there were guys who draw the first game, and then there was one guy, I think it was Bakwajan, who actually won the first game, but got 0 points or small points from it because of the fact that his opponent was absent.
Hmm.
So, and he got very, maybe not very easy, but easier pairings till the end of the tournament than those guys who won big in the first round. And I don't think it's good. It's not
And
how it's
he
supposed to
also
be.
did pick up a draw on the way, which could have made it even easier to pick
So
up some easier
he was able
matches.
to get a high place on the tournament without much breaking much sweat because of how it worked. And I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. Uh, I do think it would be a bit different. I don't know how to change it. The first thing that came to my mind was the random pairings. I mean, all the winners are paired randomly against each other. So you still not exactly incentivized to win big, but you cannot lose. You can. It makes no point to score low in order to avoid things because you can get them anyway because they're random.
Hmm.
I think that's one solution. Uh, Maybe there's some other, but it didn't feel too good when we were playing this Dice Crusher. It didn't seem fair, and I didn't like it. And now I'm again back in 20-0 camp, basically.
Okay. Um,
But one thing it must be clear. It's I feel that it's a completely different game. Maybe not completely different, but a quite different game. Uh, if you analyze your chances competitively on win draw lose system, you make different choices when release building than on 20-0. I proved it during this conversation. I would take different Eldor list if I would
mhm.
play 20-0 than I did to this tournament. So uh, I think that the final conclusion would be that those both systems had some
Flaws.
advantages and disadvantages,
Hmm.
and you have to be simply prepared competitively uh, for for the rules of the tournament. And there is no one good solution. That's the conclusion. They have
Yeah,
all they are all good and bad at some points, and it's simply something different. So I don't mind playing this on one tournament and some other on different system or the other tournament. That would make things interesting and would probably change a bit the lists and the meta between those games, between those tournaments.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I had the same feelings. The West had like a whole drama about the lack of random pairings about, I don't know, 12 or 18 months ago. It seems a bit sad that we're only working our
But
way through this
well,
now,
but let's
given that
honest,
we always consider ourselves, wow, we're super cool, super good, etc.
that's, yeah. Let's be honest. When the West had that drama, we were like between ourselves a bit, confident that we are superior to all that,
Yeah, that's why
and
we should play 20-0. You wouldn't have that.
and the moment we try win draw lose, we quickly come with the same ideas, with the solutions, the
Yeah,
same
we're
solutions.
reinventing
Uh,
the wheel.
but let's be honest. I can now understand this drama but better. But it was, I think, Manny that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
trying
I
to
don't want to throw out
submarine his
names.
way into winning a tournament. But well,
I
he
think
was.
he succeeded in
Yeah,
that.
I think he did.
He
He
did only
was.
try.
He was actually, as from what I read, just a note that I read it, so I wasn't a witness of that. But from what I read, he put his models away from objective to score less points that
Hmm.
he could have. I I didn't see this on our tournament, and I would imagine that we would have drama if anyone would do that to an on our tournament. Victor did some shady things on the Warsaw GT, Warsaw GT, but I don't think he moved his models off the objective either. So
That's a bit extreme.
if someone was doing like something like that, yeah, I think we would have drama as well, which is a bit more understandable for us now that we actually tried the system, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess no
we
one can
now
say that
now
we
now
didn't
we
try
understand
it.
the problem, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and like you said, I also agree that picking up a draw along the way seems like a very good idea. You might not win the
Maybe
tournament,
not
but uh,
depending on your ambitions. If you want to
yes,
win,
exactly.
then no. But
Absolutely
picking
not.
a small wins along the way is a great idea.
Yeah, but even if you're taking an underdog army, for example, and you know you don't really have a chance against top meta picks, then picking up a draw can make it easier for
Yeah,
you to reach the top
that
five, for example, which is a
yes,
realistic target.
it actually that either happened. Either happened or was very close to happening on Dice Crasher. So yeah, I,
Yeah.
I think I think that's it's a downside of the system.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say I'm in 20-0 camp, but I definitely wouldn't want to play this weird hybrid again of a win is two
Well,
points,
I'm not
draws
sure if
one.
you talked about it with your listeners, how you were fucked initially on the results. I think that's worth mentioning why you are so fed up with the whole system. Let's reveal this interesting part of information that you were initially fourth, actually. So the best place you can ever get on tournament, fourth.
Yeah.
uh, and then someone who can that be? Someone figure out that you had actually the same number of points as the third place, and the only reason you got fourth was because the tournament keeper put you in alphabetical order. So you were
Yes.
actually third ex aequo, but tournament keeper put you on the fourth place because of the fucking alphabet. So the third place had a better nick in the tournament, and that was the reason why you why you were initially fourth.
Exactly. And I
But
was,
fortunately, that was changed after the tournament, so you are officially third as well.
yep, Yep, I did finish third. I'm very happy with that. Although I was denied a photo with a handshake on our league's fan page. So,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
that fucking sucks, right?
exactly. I'm
Jesus.
holding a grudge.
So congratulations anyway. Especially you get recognition here and now. Uh, congrats. That was
Thanks,
a very
thanks,
nice run.
thanks. Thank you very much. And I did put up a fight against you, unlike many a time during RTTs locally. So I'm happy with that.
That is true as well, and it was very interesting, very tense game, very on a very high level. So congrats to both of us, I guess.
Yeah, all right. And with all that patting on the back, we are done for tonight. Vladdy, thanks very much for coming in and talking with me here about the
No problem.
tournament. It was a pleasure to have you.
Always pleasure
And
to be here.
guys, if you like our content, please like, subscribe, hit the bell button, what have you. And also, we have started up a blog page, which will be linked below, where myself and Vitalis go over our games at the Dice Crusher GT that we just talked about here. So if you want to find out a bit more, you can read about that there. So that brings us to the end of this episode at Contact Lost, and look forward to more from us. Thanks very much for listening in, and bye bye.